Welcome back, everybody, to week 12 of the ISL podcast report, where we preview the upcoming week in the ISL. Remember that you can watch the ISL every week on kick.com/systems. It's Wednesday, depending on your time of day. It's the same time every week, though, and we've only got a few weeks left, so make sure that you're tuning in. Obviously, make sure that you like and subscribe to the ISL YouTube channel and this video itself so you can stay up to date when we upload new content. We're going to be putting out a recap video every week and a preview podcast each and every week moving forward, so you'll be able to get an idea of what's happening even if you can't tune into the stream. Going along with that, make sure that you head over to isl.bet as soon as you get the information from Systems and me about how the ISL is going to break down this week. Get those picks locked in. Remember, there's a $3,100 prize for the first person to go 16-0. Get that in. It could be you. It'll probably be me, though. And additionally, your fantasy teams, make sure that you pick your captain. There's season-long and weekly prizes totaling $40,000 in week 1. That's over at isl.bet. That's what we're here for. Last week, week 11, was a doozy. It was the first week in the ISL so far where the slot that had the higher median going in lost more than it won. They were 7-9. Now, overall this season, they're still 174 and 123 with a 70% win percentage. So median is still going to be the stat that we're looking at, but we did have just a ton of upsets last week, along with some real big heavyweights. My personal favorite, Hip Hop Hop, coming through and beating Crystal's Digger in what was just a massive matchup. Crystal's Digger's only lost to Hip Hop Hop twice. It's the only slot it's lost to all season long. We also had one of the biggest upsets of the season with a .31 difference upset. It was massive, and that gets us into the playoff picture. Right now in the ISC, we have 4 division leaders. We have Crystal's Diggers 9-2 in the ISC West, Sloth Tumble 8-3 in the North, Gates of Olympus 7-4 in the East, and Sweet Rush Megaways and Hammer of Vulcan are both tied at 6-5. They split their season-long series. They're both 5-4 in the conference, and they're both tied with the same division record. So all of the tiebreakers, without getting into common opponents and their actual scores, they're tied. So the end of the season is going to be big for Sweet Rush and Hammer of Vulcan in the ASC South. The current wild cards, Hip Hop Hop is pretty safe. They're 1 game behind Crystal's Digger. They're 8-3. Then there's Dragonfall, and then whichever one doesn't make it out of that ISC South are both at 6-5 with a 5-4 conference record. Still in the hunt, Sheep Gone Wild is 6-5, but they have a worse conference record. Wild Coyote and Cat Clans are both 5-6. So that's likely going to be the slots that we see in the playoffs, is some combination of the ones that are there in the ISC right now. Over in the ASC, it's a little bit top heavy. The division leaders, Space Wars at 9-2, surprise of the year so far, coming in the ASC South. The Grand Heist, powerhouse out of the ASC East, a really tough division. Bloodsuckers, the surprise leader of the ASC North, also at 8-3 with Grand Heist. And then Boom Boom Gold is 2 games back behind the rest of the division leaders, but they still lead the relatively weak ASC West with a 6-5 record. The current wild cards, 2 come out of that really tough ASC South. Kodiak, Kingdom, and Mental are both 8-3 in the ASC South. They're both 1 game behind Space Wars, and they have the first 2 wild cards seemingly locked up. Next, the last wild card is currently Rich Raptors at 7-4. They're 1 game ahead of Silverback Mountain at 6-5, and then Big Bamboo is lurking at 5-6. But remember, they're only 1 game behind Boom Boom Gold for that division lead. So those are the matchups we're going to be looking at. Well, and here he is, the man himself, Systems, joining me to walk through the individual matchups again this week and for every week moving forward here on the ISL podcast report. Thank you, Systems. I bet it's nice to be back home in your own bed. No more sleeping in Dubai and waving white flags in Mexico City, huh?
Yeah, well, it might be good to be back home, but I don't know what I took from one of those destinations. It's been a bit rough the last 4 days, but feeling a little bit better. So I'm hoping the next 3 days I'm back to normal. But yeah, very much look forward to getting back into some streaming this week.
Absolutely. Let's get into this. I don't want to take up your voice too much. I know we're going to have a busy SPL tonight and some really good stuff going on this week on stream. So we'll get into it. Yeah, game number one on the list is King Kobe versus Penny Pelican. Now, this one is a little bit underwhelming. Two slots have been on fire lately, though. King Kobe has a 4-7 record. They have a -4 net rating, a median X of 0.56. Penny Pelican, on the other hand, also 4-7, also a -4 net rating, but a median X of 0.42, so significantly less. Now, the difference is Penny Pelican has been on a tear. They have won 3 of their last 4, and the one they lost was a 5-game matchup with Hip Hop Pop. King Kobe, which has been relegated to play money status, is 3-0 in their last 3. I don't know. A lot of people, I think, are going to be on the Pelican as they make their resurgence. What do you think about this first matchup?
Yeah, very even matchup on paper. My gut told me King Kobe. Just when I look at the matchup, even with Penny Pelican's recent form, I just think with that sort of starting base on King Kobe, you get more chances to steal a game off Penny Pelican if she does end up ripping. But she's been in great form lately. She was so bad early on this season, even though they lost a lot of 5-game duels. And the stats lean towards King Kobe. Not sure what I'll do here. You're trying to get points against the field. You think the field's going to probably go with Penny Pelican since it's got a bit of a cult hero status with those close losses this season. It's got what, one, two, three, 4 losses in a 5-game matchup, which would change their season around. Unfortunately, they're in the hardest division in the whole league, so they're pretty much drawing dead here to a playoff spot. But yeah, look, you can flip a coin, man. Very, very evenly matched this lineup, and there's really nothing between both of them.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, last week, and as I mentioned in the intro, last week was the first week in the ISL where the underdogs have won more than the favorites. The favorites were 7-9 last week. So this
It
median
felt like
X,
it.
just as soon as we thought we had it figured out, they go and throw us a curveball, and anything can happen on any given Wednesday as they. So yeah, no, this one's a coin flip. I agree. I think the public's going to be on Penny Pelican, so people can kind of take that depending on if you're looking to ride with the public or fade them. That's going to kind of be your pick. Matchup
Yeah.
number 2 has just the surprise of the ISL. And we've said that about a lot of slots, but Space Wars 2 takes the cake for most slot or most surprising slot in my mind. Game number 2, they're facing up against Dragonfall. Space Wars is an ISL leading 9-2. They have a net rating of plus 12. Their median is 0.56. And since week 1, they have only lost 1 matchup. Dragonfall, on the other hand, is 6-5. They have a net rating of plus 2, median X of 0.32, and they've been really hit or miss. They started off 3-0, they went 0-3 after that, and now they've won a match every other game. So they're due for a loss if we're going to look at that. I just can't keep leaving Space Wars is going to do this with their maximum X of 2. But they do it. I'm going to have to pick them just to try and keep myself up top of the overall leaderboard. What are your thoughts on that one? Are you a believer in Space Wars moving
Yeah,
forward?
it's a no-brainer. You got to go with Space Wars. Dragonfall just has far too many low returns. Even it's if you look at its 6 wins this season, Dragonfall, they're all a little bit deceptive. So it's got 2 raw potato wins. It's got a Cat Clans win, a Cabin Crashers win, a Retro Tapes win, and a Penny Pelican win. All those games are all against slots which will not be making the playoffs. So it's a little bit of downhill skiing, I call it in other sports where they're picking up the slack from the bad slots. And again, against a team like Space Wars, who are just going to deliver you probably a 0.7, 0.8x nearly every game minimum, it's going to be very hard for a game like Dragonfall, who has a lot of bonuses pay under 0.1 and 0.2 defeated. But yeah, it's surprising. It's got Dragonfall this week, Cat Clans the week after, but then it's going to be a hard finish for Space Wars. It's got Sweet Bonanza, Gates of Bloodsuckers, and Hoarders. So that's a pretty brutal run home. So it's got a lead over Kodiak and Mental, but it's going to have to pick up these wins now with a record like it's got. Even if it doesn't win the division, it will absolutely win a wild card spot. But yeah, it's definitely have to take out the Dragonfall Cat Clans win because I can see it dropping to the last 4, maybe more if it sort of hits its peak already this season and starts to drop off a bit. But yeah, this should be a no-brainer. I know there's a lot of no-brainers last week that lost, but this should be quite an easy with Space Wars.
Yeah, that's one of these things about these really high performing median slots is you know what you're going to get. You can have some big blowups that can beat them, but the consistency with Space Wars has just been uncanny. And I think I agree that Dragonfall is not the type of slot that is going to pull that upset off. Game number 3 is incredibly close. We have Big Bang Boo versus Sheep Gone Wild. At first glance, you might think that Sheep Gone Wild has a big advantage, but when you dive into the numbers, Big Bang Boo is 5-6. They have a -6 net rating. Their median is 0.49. Sheep Gone Wild is 6-5. They have a -4 net rating, and their median is 0.53. So we only have a 0.04 difference in median. We have a 0.2 difference in net rating, which is basically a coin flip. Who is going to show up? Sheep Gone Wild is on a really tough stretch. They lost to Crystal Diggers and Penny Pelican, got swept by both of them. Whereas Big
Very
Bamboo
surprising.
came off of a sweep against King Kobe and is looking to sort of rebound. They're in second. They're only one game behind Boom Gold and are kind of fighting for the playoffs. I still haven't decided what I want to do here. I think I'm going to go Sheep Gone Wild. I think they're going to be more consistent, but Big Bamboo is due for a blow up, and this one really is the first coin toss of the week. What are you thinking? How you leaning?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely a coin toss. I'd love to break the data down more on this game, but this is going to be a gut feel. Yeah, look, big bamboo, hit or miss. I mean, I always trend in a matchup like this, probably a big bamboo, knowing that one or two hits will get me like $200 back, which might be 0.25, 0.3, and then pray you get a bad shit gone wild. But very hard to know. Big bamboo's only won 10% as an underdog. It must be underdog. Sheep Gone Wild's got a pretty good record and favorite. Yeah, it's a fan. There's not much to break down. Sheep Gone Wild is more consistent, whereas Big Bamboo is more volatile, as you said. But that being said, you don't normally get like a 0.1 on Big Bamboo. You normally can scrape a 0.25, a 0.3, etc., which should at least make you competitive in the Sheep Gone Wild rips. But yeah, that's a gut feel matchup. Absolutely.
Yep, that's what makes it so hard to go 16-0 here. And something that I had talked about in the intro a little bit is the strategy that you have if you're trying to go 16-0 is probably different than the strategy that you have if you're just trying to pick the most winners. And that sounds a bit counterintuitive, but I think if you're going to go 16-0, you can't just sit on the median, which I think is what you need to do if you're looking to kind of win the overall pick 'em. Because I think there's going to be a couple upsets every week. I think there's going to be a couple surprises. And then there's matchups like this where that 0.04 median just doesn't tell that there is a difference. And so it's going to be what slot performs on each day. And it really makes that race for 16-0 really intriguing
Sure.
each and every week. All right, speaking of intriguing, we've got game number 4, Dr. Rock versus Razor Returns. Dr. Rock in the Rift Reactor is 4-7 this year. They have a -8 net rating, and their median X is a very impressive 0.5. Razor Returns also 4-7. They have a -6 net rating, but their median is a paltry 0.3. So we have a 0.0 difference in median. And Razor Returns is a slot that, if you're just looking at the standings, looks like it's performing better this year. For me, that is a green light on Dr. Rock. I feel like even though Dr. Rock is a popular public slot in general, Razor Returns also kind of shares that feature with it. And so I think the public is going to be on Razor pretty big. And the 0.2 difference in median is not insubstantial. And so I think, surprisingly, Dr. Rock is a isn't favorite leading. Do you think the doctor is going to have the prescription for Razor Returns, or do you think the Sharks show up?
It's a tricky matchup because both slots have this boom or bust mentality. The median X on Dr. Rock is very surprising. I've been thinking about the last few weeks. The 0.5x median is way more than I would have pegged on Dr. Rock. I've got him sort of in my head as boom or bust, if you. Razor Returns. The thing that's good about Razor Returns, depending on who it's playing against, is the fact that the coin bonus will give you, in theory, it should give you. It's not a bonus guarantee, but it should give you about 20% of your money back at a minimum, which I know is not a lot. But if you're playing games which can turn in games which can turn in less than 0.2 times the buy, which Dr. Rock can do on the regular, then that's going to put it in very good standings. It doesn't have the blow up potential much. As soon as Dr. Rock puts in one good hit, that's pretty much game over. That will give the Doctor that round win, that game win. But this is tricky. I've got to somehow make ground on my opponents, which is going to be pretty impossible. And I'm pretty sure Dr. Rock's going to be heavily picked. So I may go Razor Returns, maybe hope for not a sweep, hopefully get a massive Doctor win on one of the buys, but I might go Razor Returns there. Now, it should be a really good battle, actually. Very good battle.
Yeah, it'll be fun to watch. Some of these, I mean, with all due respect to all the slots, some are less interesting to watch than the others. But these two are both really fun. And so I think everyone's going to want to sit, not just their pick them, to see how it goes. All right, game number 5 is Bloodsuckers Megaways. They're first in the ASC North, surprisingly, one game ahead of both Hoarders and Sweet Bonanza. Two of our bigger median X's are trailing Bloodsuckers Megaways. They have an 8-3 record, a net rating of +10, and a median X of 0.56, whereas they're facing Gates of Olympus, obviously a well-known slot from Pragmatic. They're 7-4, a +7 net rating, a 0.45 median, which gives us a difference of 0.11. Bloodsuckers they only lost weeks 4, 5, and 6. They lost to Sweet Bonanza, Hoarders, and Mental, which is an absolute gauntlet of slots. And since then, and before then, they haven't lost, and they've only been in 2 5-game matchups that they've lost as well. So Bloodsuckers is really quietly establishing themselves as someone that's going to need to be reckoned with in the playoffs. But Gates, I mean, they do Gates things. You never know if you're going to get 3 just awful buys, if you get 3 gigantic buys. Do you think Gates is going to be able to pull this one off? Has something in store for Bloodsuckers? What are your
Gut
thoughts?
tells me Gates will decide to lean towards Bloodsuckers, but I think that's more from a standpoint as a gambler, much preferring a game like Gates of Olympus than Bloodsuckers, which is a little bit slow moving, but it does keep performing. Like I said, it did lose those runabouts. It beat Boom Boom Gold. It beat Horde as a 5-game battle. It did sweep Bonanza looking at these matchups, but it's got some fillers in there as well. Gates of Olympus has had a similar lineup of opponents. The stats point towards, as you said, Bloodsuckers. It's got the higher median X, got the better net rating. It's got the better record of the season. It's never lost as a favorite. Bloodsuckers all year, it's never lost as a favorite. Now that being said, Gates of Olympus has won twice as an underdog, so it can pull that underdog status off. Just another brutally hard matchup. Another one on just my screen going, where do I click? Where do I click? It's a massive game though for Bloodsuckers. They're in probably the second most division in the ISL. You've got 8 wins Bloodsuckers, 7 wins Hoarders, 7 wins Sweet Bonanza. Rise of Atlantis is filling out the numbers in that division. So this is a huge matchup. Sorry, huge matchup because they've got Super Mega Monsters ahead, and then they've got Cabin Crashers Dragonfall, which should be 2 wins for them. So if they take this win, it's going to make the run of Hoarders and Sweet Bonanza awfully difficult to overcome.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the cool things as we get closer here. The playoff picture comes into view, and we really start digging what this means not only for this slot and for Pick'em and for fantasy, but also what it means for the playoffs overall. I'm really excited. Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Bloodsuckers this one myself. And of course, will probably end up goes. Game number 6, Rich Raptors versus Hammer of Vulcan. Rich Raptors 7-4, a net rating of +8, a median X of 0.58, which is good. They're facing off against Rich Raptors, 6-5 record, a +2 net rating, but a 0.67 median X. So there's been quite a few enigmas in the ISL in this first season, and Hammer Vulcan has been one. At 6-5, they have one of the best medians in the entire league. And so really, I mean, they've won their last 3. Is that the sign that maybe that positive regression is happening and that 0.67 median is going to start paying off for them? Rich Raptors started off hot with 3 wins, and then they had a little bit of a mishap where they lost 4 or 5. They've righted the ship, and they've got 3 wins in a row again. So this one really gives us a chance. I think Hammer of Vulcan, if they're going to kind of make that playoff, they're tied for first with Sweet Rush right now in a pretty weak division. They really need to start capitalizing if they're going to have this 0.67 median and be taken seriously a contender. And a slot like Rich Raptors is a really great one to kind of earn your medal against. As like I said, they were favorites early. They kind of fell off, and they've established themselves again. So how do you see this one going?
Yeah, stats wise, a couple of things in Rich Raptor's advantage, and then the median X is the one big thing in Hammer of Vulcan's advantage. Hammer of Vulcan, I think, even though they're in probably the weakest division in the ISL, as you said, you've got 6 Hammer of Vulcan, Sweet Rush. You have Razor Returns and Retro Tapes. So you don't have to worry about Retro Tapes. You probably don't have to worry about Razor Returns. So it's going to be pretty much Hammer of Vulcan beat Sweet Rush, the ISL South. But have a look at this run home for Hammer of Vulcan. It is brutality. It has Rich Raptors this week, then Grand Heist, Crystal Digger, Big Bamboo Sheep Gone Wilder, easier matchups, but they are no walkovers, and then Hip Hop Hop to finish. So if they drop this game, you would have to imagine with that run home that they are right up against it, which opens the door for Sweet Rush to take that division. So they've got to win this game. Rich Raptors has lost 4 games this season, and they've never won as an underdog. They are an underdog here on the stats. So that's an interesting stat as well. I'm probably going to lean towards Rich Raptor anyway, from a gut instinct perspective, even though most of them might as well. But this again, if you're framing a market, this is nearly a pick'em. This would be not as close to a pick'em as you'd have it, but this is very close to a pick'em matchup, and this will be a very important one for anyone going 16-0 or the people to top the leaderboard, because this can go either way. And those 50-50 games, you're going to have to outpick your opponents to get that extra game point up your sleeve.
Yeah, and that's what it is. A lot on the favorites. And I noticed this last week, even though I had an awful week in Pick'em, I still gained 1 point on the leader overall, and still in the top 10. And that's because at this point, a lot of those people's on that leaderboard, a lot of those people on that leaderboard at the top are going to be picking the same favorites. And so it really comes down to these games like this, where there's not much of a difference, where there's not a heavy favorite. Are you going to be on the right side? Can you figure out am I Vulcanich Raptors or not? And that's where we're at right now. Game number 7, Kodiak Kingdom versus Cat Clans 2. Kodiak Kingdom has an 8-3 record, a +9 net rating, and a 0.53 median. They're solidly second. They're only 1 game behind the Space Wars, as we just mentioned, in the ASC South. Cat Clans having a little bit of a tough season. They're 5-6, -3 net rating, a 0.4 median, which is at the bottom third of the league. I think Kodiak Kingdom is a pretty easy win here. Cat Clans can obviously show up. They can put some multis in the right place and get some wilds in the right place. And with their 5 respins that they get every time that they get a new wild on the board, it makes a huge difference. But Kodiak is just so consistent. It goes for so long. They get so many respins that I don't think that is one that Cat Clan pull out. You agree?
Yeah. Looks to be a pretty solid pick in Kodiak King. Although the median X is actually not as big a gap as you think, which is what we've been looking at a lot. Just all the other overall stats is heavily point Kingdom's favor. More wins, more game win, more net rating. They've never lost as a favorite all season. Never ever lost. Cat Clan's only won once this season when an underdog, and their wins have come against, let's be honest, again, 5 teams which will not be making the playoffs. Razor Returns, Dragonfall, Wild Coyote, Cabin Crashers, or Potato. So all their wins have come against sort of lower performing slots this season, whereas Kodiak Kingdom has done it against the bad ones and a couple of good ones as well. So it should be an easy Kodiak Kingdom.
Right, and of course, one that we both get wrong. Game number 8,
Yep.
the halfway point, Rise of Atlantis and Bonanza Billion. These two are just playing for draft picks, I think. Rise of Atlantis is 3-8. They have a net rating of -11, a median X of 0.46. Bonanza Billion is 2-9, -14 net rating, a 0.34 median. This will be a tough one to pick only because neither one is particularly good. Rise of Atlantis' only wins are Choco Reels, Space Wars, which is a good win, and Super Mega Monsters, whereas Bonanza Billion has eaten Dragonfall and Gates. Bonanza Billion blew up last week, kind of wrecked my pick'em as usual, but I think I'm going to have to go with Rise of Atlanta. There's just a lot better chance that those bombs are going to, those bubbles hit as they kind of rise up the board. No pun intended. Is that kind of your feeling on this? Is that how you're leaning as well?
Yeah, look, I'm probably leaning towards Rise of Atlantis. You can make a case for both slots here. The win last week against Gates of Atlantis, what had to unfold there was crazy. To come back and beat Gates of Atlantis, had to hit a retrig on the last spin, then get enough money and had to fade like 7 spins in the last game without getting any tumble of any kind, and somehow it did all those things in a row to fall in. Rise of Atlantis, like you said, a little bit more consistent. It has a high median X as well, et cetera, et cetera. Both games have never lost its favorite, which, I mean, hold on a minute. Win percentage favorite Bonanza Billions. We'll have to check that one. I don't really think that it would have been favorite against Gates of a
Dragonfall might have been the only one. Yeah.
It might have been Dragonfall. Maybe we'll have a look at that one there. But yeah, look, very evenly matched. But I think, like you said, much more consistent in payouts. Rise of Atlantis. Happy to go the consistency against the hit or miss style.
Yeah, definitely agree. And actually, I just saw, Bonanza Billion looks like it has a 0.34 and Dragonfall has a 0.32. So yeah, Bonanza would have been a favorite for Dragonfall in that matchup.
There you go. Cool.
Yeah. Yes, on to something a lot more exciting. We've got 2 first place slots: Grand Heist versus Sweet Rush Megaway in matchup number 9. Grand Heist 8-3. They have a +6 net rating and a massive 0.76 median. Sweet Rush is 6-5, a +2 net rating, and a not as impressive 0.49 median for a division leader. I think Grand Heist is a lock here, but man, Sweet Rush just keeps finding a way to keep itself at the top of the division. Do you think that they have something in them for Grand Heist?
No, I think Grand Heist covers this pretty easily at the end. Even though statistically speaking, they're pretty close. The median X is quite a gap. And even the trigger money on Grand Heist can sometimes pay enough to beat a game like Sugar Rush if you don't land Sweet Rush, if you don't land any wilds. And it's just as proven to be. I mean, I know it's lost. It's very odd, actually. 3 losses it's had for a juggernaut slot has been all sweeps. So they've been swept 3 times this season. They've never taken a game when they've lost a round matchup, which is quite a bizarre stat for a team that's 24-18. But I think it gets the job done against Rush.
Yeah, I think so. We have, after that one, we have 4 blowout matchups in a row. All of them have a 0.3 or higher median difference. First up is Mental versus Royal Potato. I can expect Mental is going to be on a lot of fantasy captains and will be picked, despite them kind of being in a little bit of a rut. They have a 2-game losing streak. They're 8-3, a +4 net rating, a 0.57 median though. Royal Potato is doing Royal Potato stuff and potato-y. They have a 3-8 record, a -11 net rating, and an absolutely awful 0.7 median, which means the difference is that 0.4, which is the magic number. Even after all of last week's upsets, a slot with a 0.4 median advantage is 20-0 so far in the ISL. So I think Mental gets it done. And there's really nothing in Royal Potato. I mean, they can blow up once, maybe twice, but certainly not 3 times a slot like Mental.
Yeah, this will be a no-brainer. You'll have probably 90 to 95% of people on Mental, and rightly so. The bonus guarantee is huge, by the way, on Mental. Even if Royal Potato gets like a 0.1 or a 0.15, which he gets a lot, Mental's covering that even on their bad games. So yeah, that'll be a pretty easy win.
Yep. Number 11, my personal kind of favorite slot moving forward, and I was really glad that they got it done versus Crystal Diggers last week, is Hip Hop Pop. They're up against the underwhelming Choco Reels, who did manage to get a win. They got their second of the season. Choco Reels is 2-9. They have a -12 net rating, but an awful 0.24 median X. Hip Hop Pop is 8-3, a +11 net rating, a 0.71 median. That makes this 0.47 difference, the biggest of the week by far. Yeah, I think Hip Hop Pop, again, easy win. Fantasy teams, fantasy captains, all kind of make sense for slot, and it's kind of like Hip Hop Pop. Do you agree?
Yeah, this will be easily one of the heavily chosen picks this week. Yeah, there's not much to see. Choco Reels, I don't know how it won last week, to be honest. Disappointing by Boom Boom Gold. We lost over 90% of perfect brackets in game number 1 last week. And someone said we lost about 300 viewers after game 1. So a lot of people threw in the towel straight away when that massive upset, one of the biggest of the season, happened. Yeah, that was a fluke. It's up against a real juggernaut now, a game which returns a very good chunk of money every buy. So it won't be able to steal wins like it stole against Boom Boom Gold, even though it hit a couple of really nice hits, Choco Reels. It's very, very rare for that game to do that. And this should be a very easy. The tough thing this week is going to be which one do you use as captain? There's 3 or 4 good options you can use. Who do you use? But this will be one of the heavily chosen games as the captain.
Absolutely. Yep. Like I said, I really like Hip Hop Pop's median X mixed with their high X. The only slots in the ISL that is in the top 5 of median and the top 5 of best score. And I think that's going to prove really crucial as we get into the playoffs. Game number 12, another one, just an absolute blowout. We've got Cabin Crashers 0-11, -22 net rating, league worst 0.16 median up against Sloth Tumble, an 8-3 record, +8 net rating, 0.57 median, which means that we have a 0.41 median difference. I mean, more of the same here. I don't mean to bore everyone, but Sloth Tumble, I think, is going to kill Cabin Crashers. I don't think it'll be close. If it is, it'll be an absolute shock. And congratulations to those of you who picked it. Yeah, really not much to say here. Cabin Crashers hasn't done it, and I think they will.
They haven't done it all season. I'm just looking at their record. They've got their best chance next week against Raw Potato to take a game, because after that they've got Bloodsuckers, Wild Coyote, maybe Sweep and Answer, no, and Rise of Atlantis. Rise of Atlantis is not a good matchup for Cabin Crashers, because Rise of Atlantis will give you some bubble hits, whereas Raw Potato could go rip, and you can pick up 2 free wins. But yeah, I have not won a game all season. Stats are terrible. Sloth Tumble, I've been a massive fan on. I think they've been going under the radar a little bit. They're 8-3. They're 2 games clear of the ISC North. This should be a win here this week. It's got Bonanza Billions at the end of the season. Then it does have a tough middle here, but because of that division it's in, looking at it now, Dragonfall, Cat Clans, Raw Potato, it's pretty much been gifted a slot into the playoffs, and it just has to take care of business here. And it may only need 10 wins. I don't really see Dragonfall getting 4 more wins this season. It would probably need 5, actually. Sloth Tumble holds the tiebreakers over Dragonfall. So, yeah, look, 2 more wins for Sloth Tumble should be enough to get it into the playoffs, and this will be one of them this week.
Yep, I think so too. Next up, another snoozer, Silverback Multiplier Mountain, a 6-5 record, which isn't great. They've got a +9 net rating. Their median is healthy though; it's a 0.53. And they're facing off against Retro Tapes, 1-10, -19 net rating. If it wasn't for Cabin Crashers, they would be at the bottom of the ISL with a 0.2 median. Their only win is a 3-2 win over Razor Returns, and Silverback is coming off of a massive 3-0 sweep against Grand Heist last week. I think you just got to do the smart thing here, lock Silverback into your fantasy team and into your pick'em, and hope Retro Tapes don't blow up more than once.
Yeah, pretty much. That's all there is there. Pretty standard, really. That you'll see some people go for the Hail Mary. It'd be very interesting for fantasy owners. Retro tapes is the most likely game to max win in the ISL. Most people know that. So if you've got nothing to lose in ISL, let's say if you're weak, you're down for the overalls 20, 30 points or something, you don't think you can make top 10 for the season or whatever we're paying out, you might roll the dice one week with Retro as team captain, or just have Retro there praying that a max wins gets those 10 fantasy points, even if it may not even win the round. But that's what we might do there. But pick 'em wise, you can't go over Silverback. It ticks every single box. There's not one box Retro tapes can tick in a best of 5 series.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. Up next, yet another massive favorite. Sweet Bonanza faces off against Wild Coyote Megaways. Sweet Bonanza 7-4. They have a +7 net rating. Their median is a very healthy 0.77. Wild Coyote Megaways is 5-6, a -4 net rating, and a 0.47 median. So this is the first one in a while that doesn't cross that 0.4 median difference. So Wild Coyote on paper at least has a chance. I just don't see Wild Coyote doing what they did last week against Super Mega Monsters. I think Sweet Bonanza has a much higher floor than Super Mega Monsters does, and I don't think Wild Coyote can get it done over 5-game series. You tend to agree there?
Yeah, it's just very hit and miss. It started off the season with 2 wins, and then it lost 2 games, but they did go to 5 games. I think I said last week as well, and people were like, "Boy, this game's consistent." It really isn't. It's super hit or miss, and now that those stats are starting to come to the fore now. Now, Sweet Bonanza isn't exactly a model of consistency, but when your median X is 0.77, I think that's top 5 in the league easily. That's going to get the job done every day. So, yeah, most people are going to be on Sweet Bonanza here too. It should be a relatively comfortable win.
Absolutely. We've got one of our, we saved all of the favorites for the end here. The next matchup, number 15, our penultimate matchup is Boom Boom Gold, who's been struggling a little bit on a 3-game losing streak after having won 5 in a row. And they're up against the powerhouse Crystal Digger. So Boom Boom Gold is 6-5, a +6 net rating, a 0.54 median. All those are respectable numbers, but Crystal Digger is bringing the heat. They've got a 9-2 record, a +19 net rating, a 0.71 median X. They did get swept last week. Both of their losses are to Hip Hop Pop. They're only 1-6 this year against Hip Hop Pop, but they have absolutely handled everyone else that they've faced, with Penny Pelican giving the only really challenge of the season. I think Crystals gets back on track and really deals a tough blow to Boom Boom and knocks them down to 500, which makes them eligible to not make the playoffs. They've got Big Bamboo right behind them. I think Crystal Diggers kind of rights this year. You think so?
Yeah, Crystal Digger is going to be most popular picked. It should be winning this round, but I'm just looking at its wins. It's had 6 wins this season, Boom Boom Gold. 4 of them have been as underdogs. I imagine that some of those underdogs win would have been Grand Heist, Hip Hop Pop, maybe earlier in the season against Big Bamboo, maybe. I'm just trying to look at them right now. But yeah, look, Crystal Digger, it's that scatter money, really, really hard. I think to have a chance at beating Crystal Digger this week, you have to have a similar game type, which Hip Hop Pop does sort of bring. Not a traditional guaranteed hit every time, but at least something very consistent. We don't get to see Crystal Digger v Space Wars this, and at least not at the moment. Maybe in the playoffs, but that would be interesting, knowing sort of how Space Wars runs and how Crystal Digger runs. Both games have a highest X of 2X or less, which is just unbelievable. But yeah, we'll see how it all unfolds. But yeah, I'll be going Crystal Digger here, although I would like to see a Boom Gold upset. That would make things interesting.
And that 0.17 median difference isn't huge. So
It's not
that's certain.
ginormous.
That's what I like to call the upset zone. So Boom Boom Gold could easily be one of those smart, savvy picks, or they could be something that just absolutely destroys the perfect bracket with only 1 game left. I guess we'll have to see this, but yeah. And the last matchup, the one that will decide, well, maybe we'll decide if we've got any 16-0s, is Hoarders versus Super Mega Monsters. Hoarders is 7-4, +7 net rating, a preposterous 0.92 median X. Super Mega Monsters is 4-7, a -1 net rating, and a 0.67 median X. So Super Mega Monsters median has been kind of coming back to match their performance in terms of wins and losses. They've only won 1 game since week 5, and that was against a billion. Otherwise, they've had a pretty tough draw, but they've lost all of those matchups. I think Hoarders gets back on track. They did lose in 5 to Sweet Bonanza last week, but I think that they're just too strong. That 0.25 difference isn't insurmountable for Super Mega Monsters, but they've been really kind of disappointing and underwhelming as of late. And I think Hoarders gets themselves back in winning ways and kind of keeps pace with Swedes and Bloodsuckers. I think Super Mega Monsters might pull the upset.
I think it can. I think it can. I think I'm going to be leaning towards Super Mega Monsters, even though all the stats say Hoarders is the one here. I think Hoarders is still, I think it's still batting above its average. It's nearly average money back every buy, which is insane to realize. I don't think that can keep up over the rest of the season. Now, its stats will stay high because it's done it at quite a large body of work now. We've got, what, 11 weeks of data to look at. I think Super Mega Monsters has been unlucky. A slot which has lost 7 times this season and has never ever been swept ever. That gives you a bit of an indicator as to sort of how at least consistent it is in picking off games, which I think it can do against Hoarders. And the median X definitely, like you said, it's not bad. In fact, 0.67. Where does that rank this year? That ranks, if I quickly have a look at the list, it's got to scroll up here. What do we
Sixth.
got? We got 1, 2, 6, is it? There you go. 6 in median X, which is unbelievable to think. And that is just below, believe it or not, that is just below Hip Hop Hop and Grand Crystal Digger. So when you look at it in that regard, you go, well, wait a minute, surely if either of those two games were here, they would be favorite, let alone a heavy, or maybe, yeah, they'd be favorite, I think, even with the median X different. Maybe not, we'll see. They wouldn't be favorite according to the median X, but in the public size, they would be. But I think Super Mega Monsters can pull off an upset here. So it would be intriguing if we had one person left in the perfect bracket and they had Hoarders. I'll be quietly confident that Super Mega Monsters can pull off an upset.
Well, fingers crossed. And I know I mentioned this in the intro as well, but correct me if I'm wrong. That prize for 16-0 is up to $3,100. Is that accurate now?
Yep. Yeah, it's 3,100. So we actually had one of the viewers who went on a bit of a run with our new Plinko Paroli strat. Come in with two $500 donations or tips if you want into that jackpot amount to add to the 2,000 that was already there. So yeah, this week 16-0 is worth 3,100, and the zero and 16 dreams still alive. I think that jackpot's at $700 in case someone does the impossible and goes 0 from 16.
I love to hear it. I'm excited. I'm going to try and get that 16-0. I could use $3,100. Couldn't we all?
Yeah, it'd be nice. It'd be nice not to be knocked out
Absolutely.
game one as well.
Yeah, exactly. Same here. Well, yeah, thanks for joining me. I appreciate it. We will be here again next week, but everyone get in and lock in those picks. Make sure that you tune in on Wednesday night and catch the week 12 of the ISL as we round the corner and head into the playoffs. $3,100 up for grabs for anyone with a perfect bracket. Can't wait to see what happens. Thanks for joining me, Systems. I'll see you on the stream.
Cheers, man. Have a good one.
Thanks, you too.